it is.
Thank you, everyone. The health and safety message for today is, for this huge gallery out here, in the event of an emergency, please follow the instructions of council staff and exit through the main entrance. Once you reach the footpath, please turn right and walk to Pukekura Park, congregating outside the Spark building. Please do not block the footpath for other users. Staff will guide you to an alternate route if necessary. If there is an earthquake, drop cover and hold where possible, and please be mindful of that beautiful glass ceiling overhead. Please remain where you are until further instructions are given. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. Any apologies?
Councillor Brown.
Carry on. Councillor McFarlane.
I'd like to move. Mr.
Councillor Johnson and the Mayor. Right. We have some deputations today. Firstly, I'd like to call to the table Matua Hamilton. If you want to take the, please. Mr. Hamilton is making deputation re the Coronation Avenue parking, which you will receive. Mr. Hamilton, the floor is yours.
You see, we just wanted to know that the residents are concerned about how we're going with the council helping us to get parking restrictions put on. We had an accident down there the other day because two cars were parked, one on the yellow line and one on the corner, and the lady couldn't see and got smacked up. She went to hospital. It's just a thing that's just happening all the time. And now we're getting wits people parking down the road with 4x4s and everything else all day when they've got a car park of their own down the bottom which they don't use.
You're done. You're quite happy to accept some questions?
And sir?
Do you wish to accept it, or will you accept questions?
Yes, sir.
Councillor Pearce.
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. You've had a response from council, haven't you?
Yes, ma'am, I have.
And what did you think about that response? They gave you 2 or 3 options.
Something like WOMAD or something that's big that's going on at the racecourse. We just asked if they wavy that thing for the people who want to park that find it hard to get anywhere near to the racecourse. Three options are good.
Supplement. Thank you. Just to clarify, they were recommending that we have limited parking time, but you're saying that for those large events that they waive that restriction. Is that what you're suggesting? No.
See, what we're after trying to stop is these people selling their cars on the side of the road and just leaving them there. So it's not on. It's defeating the thing for people wanting to get in and out or get visitors their own. You don't have a chance. We just had a car from Waitara was parked there for 9 weeks. Nobody came and saw it or attended it or nothing. The only thing I found out was I took the number to the police and said, I think this car might be stolen. They said, no, it's from Waitara.
But that limited parking would eliminate that. Limited time. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ken Bedford, Chair of the Clifton Community Board. Mr. Bedford has some comments he wishes to make about the Bertrand Road Bridge, which is tab 4 on your agenda today.
Good, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I am representing the Clifton Community Board, and thank you for the opportunity to comment on item 4, the road closure at the Bertrand Road Bridge. This item came up before my board at its last March meeting, and just as an aside, this was held at Tekarangi. We are moving our meetings around the district rather than just being based in Huranui. Whilst my board endorses the closure, several of the Tekarangi residents at the meeting expressed a little concern that traffic could travel approximately 2 kilometres down Ngāti Maru Road to the east of the bridge and Waitara Road to the west of the bridge on the same distance. I refer you to the map on page 43. It appears that these roads, the Bertrand Road, are constantly used by Tikarangi and Onairo residents when travelling to New Plymouth. I note that while signs were recommended being placed at the intersection of these two roads, and at Bertrand Road road closure conditions, page 41, condition 3 states that marshals shall be stationed at all intersections of the Bertrand Road and any open road. We're just requesting that these marshals be placed actually at Waitara Road and at Bertrand Road, not right down by the road closure. The reason for this is, as you look on the map, especially the Bertrand Road to the east is a very narrow road, and they'll get 2 kilometres down the road to find the road closed and very little room to turn around with the thing. So this recommendation has also been endorsed by the Waitara Community Board. So when it comes up for consideration, I ask the councillors that they just take credence of these conditions and what have you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll take any questions that anyone wants.
Anybody have any questions of Mr. Bedford? Being none, thank you, Mr. Bedford.
Logical.
Now we move on to the minutes of the Performance Committee meeting, 16th of February 2017.
Second. Moved by McLeod, second by me.
Councillor McLeod, seconded by His Worship. Any debate, discussion? Being none, all those in favour, please say aye.
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 Against? No. Is it? No. Right, we'll move to tab 1.
Mr. Chair. Sorry, you didn't.
Basic.
Yep, you didn't ask for any conflicts of interest. This tab 1, I've got a perceived conflict of interest, so I'll pull away from the table. Even though I'm not on this committee, it's good that if it's noted that I step aside.
I'm very remiss. I will note your conflict of interest.
Anyway.
Tab 1. Councillor McLeod.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With your indulgence, I'd just like to point out to the committee that the Inglewood Community Board actually has input into this, and they reference Inglewood, Matai Street, and it's not noted on the documentation here, but the Inglewood Community Board actually approved that request. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Noted, Councillor McLeod. Any other points of clarification? Being none,
I'll move.
moved by Councillor Pearce, seconded by Councillor McLeod. Any debate, discussion?
Just one
Councillor
matter. The Dawson Street item 1 and 2, the parking spaces adjacent to the Young Street intersection. I note that one of the companies involved says that they have no concern or worry about this. It does seem to me that we are at times taking away parking spaces where any prudent driver would not perceive a risk. I'm just wondering whether sometimes we might be going a little too far, which can, if you like, reduce the availability of readily available spaces that those particularly who are less able, maybe perhaps not so good at parallel parking, etc., can get to. And I'm thinking of parking spaces particularly on the ends of lots, which people often find easier to get into, particularly as they get older. Just a thought going by, we should guard against unnecessary removal where possible.
Anybody else wish to speak for or either for or against the item? Councillor Melody.
Page 9. I note that Commercial Enterprises requested the car parking be extended from 60 minutes to 120 minutes. I would think there'd be lots of commercial enterprises around town believe that the parking outside their businesses doesn't give their clients long enough to park. There's two commercial businesses there saying that.
Any further debate? I shall put it. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? It is passed. Tab 2, which is the Anzac Day road closures for New Plymouth and Inglewood. Any points of clarification? Being none.
Seconded.
Moved Councillor McLeod, seconded Councillor Pearce. Any debate, discussion? Being none, I'll put it. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? It is passed. Tab 3, temporary road closure, Yarrow Stadium for the Chiefs versus the Reds. Any points of clarification?
Happy to second.
There being none, moved by Councillor McLeod, seconded by Councillor Johnston. Any debate, discussion? There being none, I will put it. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? It is passed. Tab 4, temporary road closure, Bertrand Road Bridge for a wedding ceremony.
With the
Any
proviso
points of
of,
clarification? Councillor Dinehaven.
I'd be prepared to move it, Mr Chairman, with the provision
Points of
that...
clarification at this stage, Councillor
clarification.
Dinehaven. Now Councillor Dinehaven.
Thank you. Mr Chairman, I'm happy to move it with the provision that we add the initiative proposed by, of having a watch person or a traffic marshal at the end of the road, as Mr Bedford has suggested.
I've got an amendment here.
Before I take that amendment, can I ask the Chief Executive, well, I see Mr Williston up there, how that will affect it? So.
Point of order, Mr Chairman, that's not what the Clifton Community Board asked, actually. So,
If you, sorry, if you said a recommendation.
It's irrelevant, Councillor Johnson, it's irrelevant what the community board asked for. This is part of the debate, so.
But you could modify that to say that as per the recommendations
That's what I
from the
said,
community
as
board.
Mr Bedford had outlined.
But before we do that, we'll get some clarification on the ramifications of such a change.
So, Mr Chairman, I'm not as familiar with this event as some of my staff here. Now, who here would, it looks like Miss Katrina Brunton would be able to...
Looks like the arrow's going.
Should she be wearing a tiara or something if we're in the spirit of weddings, aren't we? Is that what this is all about?
It's not your wedding, is it, Ms Brunton?
That makes sense.
Ms Brunton.
So through you, Chair, I have discussed the Community Board recommendations with our voting team. They agree that excuse me, additional signage is a good idea, but they are hesitant to put it at the intersection of the road because they believe that this is a traffic safety issue. That speeds along the intersection of that road are going quite quickly. We don't want to place additional signage there that will cause traffic to slow down to try and read the sign. There is a speed sign down the road. I'm thinking, which road is it? Is it Bertrand Road? Ngāti Road. Just away down, there's a speed sign there. They are going to put a call flute sign there for at least 3 days prior to the event, advising the community that the road will be closed on what day, and they will advise the organisers of the event to make sure that they do have some traffic management at the intersection.
I would also point out to the committee that the road closure is for a period of 2 hours.
yes.
Councillor Dinehaven, I think the recommendation of the council officers might differ somewhat than your amendment.
Happy to go along with the recommendation that has just been outlined by Ms Brunton and therefore move it accordingly.
And I'll second it for debate.
Moved by Councillor Dinehaven, seconded by Councillor Pearce. In the debate discussion, we have Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. No, I don't agree with that at all, and I won't be voting for it at all. Those signs need to be put at Waitara Road and Ngāti Muri Road intersections there, just to advise people that that bridge will be closed. There's quite a way to go from those particular intersections down to the bridge, and there's a lot of people that will be going down those roads and into the houses. And what this closure means is that it's only for 2 hours, as you have stated, down by the bridge, right in the middle of those two intersections. So I fully agree with what was asked by the Waitara Community Board and the Clifton Community Board to have signage at those corners a couple of days beforehand, just to make sure that everybody knows that that ceremony is taking place. And I will foreshadow an amendment to that, to that effect.
Further speakers by the floor or against the motion? There being none, I will put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against?
No.
No.
I'll ask for a show of hands.
Yeah.
All those in favour of the motion, please say aye and raise their hand. Those against?
Makes sense.
The motion is lost. I'm now prepared to accept the confirmation.
So my amendment would be to...
It's not an amendment, it would be a
beg your pardon?
motion.
Foreshadow.
Okay, so that the signage be placed on the corner of Ngāti Muri Road and Waitara Road, advising that the bridge is closed at the times of the ceremony.
I'll second.
Seconded by Councillor McLeod.
Sorry, can you just clarify exactly what you want the wording to be?
Yeah, so the signage be placed on the corner of Ngāti Muri Road and Waitara Road, advising that the bridge is closed at the times of the ceremony.
You comfortable with what you see on the board, Councillor?
If I could make a comment,
Yep.
Council, yeah, it has been moved and seconded.
Councillor
So
Johnson has
now we have any debate. Councillor Merrick.
closed, that the signage be erected on the corner. The bridge is closed at the times of the
Wedding ceremony, maybe.
ceremony. Aren't we going to put the 3 days thing around it?
No, that's what council offered.
What? I'm sorry, I'm
So do you
unaware
just
of
want the sign to be there for the 2 hours that it's going to be closed?
For the couple of those 3 days beforehand, so that the people know.
So after the word Waitara Road,
The councillors one at a time, so Councillor Johnson, it's your motion, so let's get it exact.
Yep, no, that's correct, how you've got it up there like that. I want it 3 days prior to the ceremony taking place.
But where does it say that?
Including the date of the ceremony, yeah.
so if I could help, Mr Chairman, if we put for 3 days prior.
One at a time, please. And Councillor Dynhoven has offered his assistance.
If we put in there that signage be erected for 3 days prior to the ceremony.
That's longer than the wedding. Thank you.
Yes.
That's it.
Yep.
Ceremony on the corner of blah blah blah. Yep.
Ceremony.
Are you comfortable with the adjustments?
I am.
Would have been quicker
So
just to
any
move them.
debate, discussion?
And the day of the ceremony.
Look, I look at this from the perspective of, I am not a roading engineer, but I believe that Ms Brunton advised us that they had concerns that this proposal was not an optimal one from a perspective of safety. And I, in this situation, think that in terms of when someone raises a safety issue with regards to a road, I would prefer to take the advice of the roading engineers and staff. I believe what the community board has recommended, I certainly agree with the intent. We're trying to minimise convenience, but we're talking about 2 hours, and now we've got 72 hours of a distracting sign on a road in a rural area where there's high speeds, and so I do not intend to support this motion.
Councillor Pearce.
Thank you, but as I understand it, the council staff were also going to put it there for 3 days prior. Isn't that what they suggested?
A different location.
Only on the day. The difficulty will be if they enter into that towards the bridge area, there is no way they can turn around. So we have to make sure that that traffic that is not intended to be down there, if you drive that road, you cannot turn around very easily on the bridge approach.
Councillor Besic.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I support the Mayor on this. What the staff had indicated was putting the sign on the road sign, which is probably not even 50 metres down each end of the road. So you'll still actually get the required result, but in a safer manner. And my way of thinking, if you put something at an intersection, it'll be easier to miss than if you put it further down the road. That's why road signs are sort of further down the road than right on an intersection, because when you're going for an intersection, especially in a rural area, you've got to have your wits about you, not looking for a sign that wasn't there the day before. But I agree with the intent, but I think the officers actually did have the right result, which covers what the community board's intent was.
Councillor Merrick.
Well, my understanding was that the staff were going to put it there for 3 days, but at a different location. Have I got that right or wrong?
Metres away.
Sorry?
Perhaps we could ask Ms Brunton where the location was intended to be.
This is a major point of
No, it's not about the location, it's about the time.
Perhaps I haven't been clear enough through you, Chair. The intention was that, and I believe it is Ngāti Maru Road, that you turn left off onto Waitara Road. So as Councillor Besic has said, about 50 metres down that road there is a speed sign, and the roading engineers were going to put a sign on the bottom half of the speed sign 3 days prior to the event, saying that the sign was the bridge was going to be closed. So it was going to be well clear of the end of the road, giving people plenty of time to turn around and be notified that
That has clarified it.
Thank you.
And clarified it for the rest of us, I would suspect. Councillor McLeod.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councillors, this is just a safety issue. The road down there, if you've ever been down there, from this end, it's quite windy going down. It's very narrow. And there's the opposite end coming on to the bridge. Both narrow roads. There's Councillor Pearce talked and mentioned turn around is extremely difficult on that road. And a sign is just mentioned, it'll be there 3 days prior to. Doesn't mean to say that the road's going to be closed for 3 days. It'll be closed just on the times of that ceremony. Being noted, be aware, that's all it says. Nothing more, nothing less. It's pretty simple, and it just stops people from going down there when they don't have to. Not many people live down from this end of the road, from this side. There's only a couple of houses down there. So I think it's just a general warning for everybody and a safety issue for everybody. That's the way I see it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Did you have something to add, Mr Bedford?
Yes, thank you. Just a point of clarification. Referred to the sign at the White Road off the Ngāti Maru Road. What about off the White Road? That is the worst road. That's the narrowest road. From the Birch Road where it intersects with White Road. The eastern side, this side of the bridge. That's the need to sign both at White Road and Ngāti Maru Road.
Thank you, Mr Bedford.
Mr Chairman, can I just make a suggestion here? Because we could tie ourselves up in knots about how we're going to do this. I think the key decision for the committee is that you approve the closure. And if I give you an assurance that we will talk to Mr Bedford and concerned members of the community about how we're going to manage the safety and allow that to be a management conversation, I think we all understand the outcome we're trying to achieve, which is to make sure that people know well in advance of the event and that we keep people safe. And I am sure we can probably work out the detail without a debate.
Appointed principal here.
Without you.
We do take note of that comment by the Chief Executive, because at the moment there is a threat that the actual debate will last longer than the
Trina's
marriage.
got it in.
Trina's got a very well put, Mr. Chairman.
Right of reply?
Is there any further debates?
Right of reply?
Discussion? We
Right of
take
reply.
note of the. You wish to have the right to reply? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's amazing what happens when we're talking about things and how things get out of hand a wee bit, I suppose. But I'd like to just remind councillors that the intersections are not proper intersections. They are left or right-hand turns off a road. Right? So I still challenge what the officers were saying about the safety part of those signs, because there's lots of signs on those intersections or the corners, and it's a very important to remember that it's a safety issue of people going down and trying to turn around and come back out again. And that was my whole point in agreeing with what the Waitara Community Board and the Tikarangi Community Board agreed to, by having those signs just to let people know that that was going to take place, and they would probably not go down that road on that particular Saturday that this is going to. So I implore you to go with the motion. Thank you.
No through road for that period.
I think we should also note the Chief Executive's comments in her promise. So I will put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against?
No.
You wish your vote recorded?
No.
It is
Daring to be different.
If somebody gets killed.
We move to tab 5, temporary road closure Taranaki Car Club events for April and May. And you see there the ones there. To any points of clarification?
It's an annual.
There being none,
I'll move. I'll second then.
moved by Councillor McLeod, seconded by Councillor Pearce. Any debate, discussion? Being none, I will put it. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against? It is passed. Tab 6, which is the Forestry Joint Ventures Draft Statement of Intent for the year ended 30th of June 2018. And as you note, this is a draft statement of intent, so there's, while you may have some queries and comments, it is a statement of intent, so it's a requirement. So any points of clarification? Being none.
Move option 1,
Moved by
Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Councillor McLeod, seconded by Councillor Dynhoven.
Option 1.
Option 1?
There's only one
Yeah,
option.
well, that's the only option.
Only one option there.
So, any debate, discussion? There being none, I will put it. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? It is passed. Item 7 is the New Plymouth PIF Guardians Limited Draft Statement of Intent for the year ended 30th of June 2018, which is the same. That is an item recommendation for considerations, item for decision. So any points of clarification?
I'll move option 1.
There's a point of clarification. Councillor McLeod.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Page 65. 65, yeah. I note that at the bottom, very bottom of the page, the little Farah sentence just before 6.3. It mentions other costs include travel, meeting expenses and administrative support. Administrative support, does that include the New Plymouth District Council's administrative support on this issue? Or is that the actual company's administrative support? I know we're doing the admin for them, but are they having internal support somewhere else?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, they don't have any staff or internal admin support for themselves. That is all charges from the New Plymouth District Council to the New Plymouth PIF Guardians Limited.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further
I'll
points?
move.
Points of clarification? Being done, it's been moved by Councillor Pearce, seconded by Councillor McLeod. Any debate, discussion? There being none, I will put it. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? It is passed. Tab 8, which is the Health and Safety Quarterly Report, period ended 31st of December 2016. Due diligence obligations. Any points of clarification?
To my left.
Councillor McLeod.
Page 71, councillors. There's a whole lot of graphs there. I'm looking at employment accidents, non-employee accidents in the centre. It's got people confrontation 12. And I look at the detail and I just wondered why that we're dealing with the public confrontation here. It says some of it's verbal abuse in that regard, so why are we dealing with public confrontations here when we should be dealing with our own people internally in council?
Yes, so Mr Chairman, in that particular situation, it is confrontation that has happened within the New Plymouth District Council workspace. Most of these, I understand, were recorded at Pukeariki. So some of our frontline staff do, from time to time, have to deal with those kinds of situations, and we record them and keep an eye on what is causing them and whether there is anything we can do to mitigate. The other thing I should say while I'm answering the question, Mr Chairman, is that we do have our new Health and Safety Lead, Alicia Pickard, here, and Alicia will be probably the best to answer any questions of detail. So let's see what other questions we have. Does that answer your question, Councillor McLeod? Yes.
Pretty much, CEO. I just verbal abuse. I sort of go, God.
Councillor
My question was the same as Councillor McLeod's.
Councillor Dienhoven.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Ms Pickard, yeah. In the graph on the same page, 71, the pie graph, which has events, there is one repetitive incident and there are 72 near miss incidents. Do you have a breakdown of what those are? Particularly interested in the repetitive one, but the near miss ones as well. Do we have any indication of risk areas?
The breakdown for near misses, there aren't any key trends in our near misses. They're quite dispersed among a bunch of different root causes. The repetitive one is around strains and workstation ergonomics.
Workstation ergonomics, so OOS type injuries.
Repetitive strains,
Okay,
yes.
thank you. So, through you, Mr Chair, seeing that we've had 6 of our employees had injuries requiring medical treatment over and 50 work days, and obviously there's this issue of asset failures coming through. Can you give us an indication of the severity of the injury? And I see that obviously we've been in touch with WorkSafe in one area, and it would appear to me to be a little bit of a cluster there, and an understanding of what we've learned from this and what we might take from it to avoid or bring this trend down.
Absolutely, and through you, Chair, the 6 employee injuries, 4 of those were medical treatment cases, all of which related to sprains or strains. The other 2 injuries were lost time injuries, and as you note, 50 lost working days. The majority of those days were lost to one particular incident, which involved a ligament damage and a significant amount of time for recovery for that individual. The property damage with 7, there's a real again disparity. There isn't a set cluster. It's not all around vehicles. It's not all around hand tools. It's quite dispersed.
Supplementary.
Just to clarify, no, I noticed this with regards to the employee incidents, and it said that there's 3 involving asset failure on this critical risk category by events. Just trying to understand there. So it wasn't so much about this property damage, but this. We've got the table, top 3 critical risk categories by event, and then we've got 3 injuries to employees resulting from plant and equipment asset failure. Just wanting to understand what that is about. So that's the table, the lower middle part of this one pager we have on page 71.
Okay, again, those 3 instances don't come down to a single root cause. We've got failures of some shelving. We have failure, a plinth being leaned onto an individual's finger, which they've put down as a asset failure. It wasn't high enough. And the other one is in relation to a failure of our trilogy display at the Gibbet Brewster Art Gallery.
Councillor Handley.
Thank you. Follow on the mayor's question around the work-safe notification. Was that issue satisfactorily resolved?
It was, through you, Your Chair, it was. We received a letter to let us know that no further action would be required. The notification to WorkSafe was not in relation to the injury itself, but more in relation to the high potential of the event.
Councillor Pearce.
Thank you. I wondered whether the 6 employees that were injured here, were they, I've heard that there was a trilogy incident, but were the rest involved from the park?
2 of those 6 were from the park, the rest were spread throughout the business.
Thank you.
Councillor Handley.
If I may, given that members of this council are officers under the Health and Safety at Work Act, do you believe that we are satisfactorily carrying out our responsibilities?
This is a core part of your responsibilities by asking these questions and gaining the further information that you need to meet your requirements.
And Mr. Chairman, I would add that each of us individually as officers of the PCBU really need to satisfy ourselves that we're fulfilling our obligations. It's probably a little difficult for one of the staff to assure you that you are, because it is actually a personal obligation and not a whole of organisation obligation.
I move the report be adopted.
Okay, so we have a mover, it's Councillor Dynhoven. Do we have anybody to second that?
I'll second it.
Councillor Johnson. Any debate, discussion? Councillor Handley.
I mean, just as an observation, we do have responsibilities as an officer. Reasonably practical steps to meet our obligations, which is all around due diligence, and that's a serious obligation we have, and actually I'm not sure that we fully understand or carry them out. And I know Council did develop a sort of a workplace document for us to read, learn, map, and I'm not sure that any of us has satisfactorily done that. I just think it's probably time we had a follow-up on that.
We have one planned, don't we?
Mr. Chairman,
has a comment.
Mr. Chairman, just a reminder that next week, in fact, we have booked a 2-hour workshop with all councillors on that very matter.
Your Worship.
Yes, look, I certainly, to think that 6 of our staff who ultimately make this place run have required, have had medical treatment injuries, and that we've lost 50 days, lost time injuries, obviously largely attributable to one incident over a period of 3 months. It's a real concern, and I think it is something that we've got a top 10 focus areas, but I think that this one just about trumps the lot of them in terms of these trends are a concern to me. I know we run a really diverse range of activities, and there are a whole lot of risks that in previous roles I've not been exposed to. We never had a conflict class of reporting in my own role, despite the size of some power bills, and I think that it is something that I really want to put some personal effort into and see us as a team, see how we can support management to drive these trends into the ground, because I think that ultimately we want people to go home from work really safely at the end of every day.
Long periods of time, perhaps some stretchers would be useful.
If I might, is anybody else? Thank you for your advice, Councillor Merrick.
It's free.
Worth every penny.
You'll be a called consultant, Merrick, before you know.
Thank you, councillors.
I'll move.
Yeah. been moved, already been moved.
Yeah, it's been moved
It's been
already.
moved, so I shall put it. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? It is carried. Thank you, councillors.
That's us.